hear me? You good? Okay. If at any point during the tour you need that volume turned up a little bit, just give me a little index finger in the air. We'll do another couple clicks. My name is Patrick. I'm going to be showing you guys around the river. Next 2.5 hours, spread out over about 30 miles. Reverse that. 2.5 miles, about 30 minutes. By show of hands, how many of you guys have never done one of these boat tours before? All right, we got newcomers. I can make up whatever I want, huh?
Yep.
Well, for newcomers, a couple of rules real quick. Rule number 1 is don't stand up on the boat during the tour. I'm going to pop up real quick, take a picture, or get a good look at something and sit back down, that's fine. But I want to let you know we got some low bridges, and some of them come right out of nowhere. If you stand up real quick, just be very mindful of your surroundings. Number 2, don't smoke or vape on the boat. Alcoholic beverages are allowed and encouraged. And number 3, don't be chatting on cell phones and having loud conversations. Nothing spoils a boat tour faster or more efficiently than a loud conversation from a small group of people. And with that, you guys, one last quick thing, which is this. If for some reason one of you ends up in the water on this tour, I have life jackets below deck. If you end up in the river, I will throw you a life preserver, at which point what I need you to do is to very calmly hold it up over your head and just walk to shore. Only in a few feet of water. And with that, everyone, the first landmark is on my left. That is our Montreal Hotel. Prior to being a hotel, that building goes all the way back to 1853 as an all-boys boarding school called St. Mary's College. We still have St. Mary's here in San Antonio, but it's involved in the St. Mary's Law School, about 50 minutes or 2 miles up the street. And the cool thing about my Montreal is that if you stay in there as a guest, these days you're probably staying inside of an old 19th century boys' dormitory or a 19th century classroom. That's La Montreal for you. That brings us underneath the Navarro Street Bridge here. So once we're out to underneath this bridge on the other side, if you look immediately, and I mean immediately on my left, and way up into the sky, you'll see a little architectural trick of the eye. It's going to look like a single freestanding wall right at the top of the water. Actually, it's a massive triangular building, it's a capacity block. Building is, of all things, America's very first air-conditioned hospital. Yeah, we don't pioneer very many things here in San Antonio. We don't invent much of anything, but we did come up with air conditioning. By the way, if anyone knows Carol Burnett, that's our finest invention right there. She was born right at the Knicks. San Antonio native, old Carol Burnett. Alright, straight ahead of us, over that bridge, that large boxy building going way up there, that is the Hyatt Regency Hotel, straight ahead. And that hotel is famous around here for its height. Not because it's tall, but because it's uncharacteristically short, and there's a very peculiar reason for it. The city of San Antonio, believe it or not, actually prohibits any building in the city from casting a shadow upon the Alamo in the setting sun. True story. That's why this Hyatt was limited to 16 stories. That's all they were allowed to build, and that's because the Alamo was on the other side of it. The best way to get to the Alamo from this point on the river, right to these triple glass doors coming up on my left-hand side. By the way, I'm the only boat captain in the whole fleet who can actually say that it has families flying at the Alamo. My aunt and uncle last week, they got tossed out by security. Alright, now speaking of the Alamo is the number 2, not the number 1. The Alamo is the number 2 most visited tourist destination in all of Texas. Anybody think they know what number 1 might be? And no, it's not Dallas Cowboys football stadium either. Number 1 is the San Antonio Riverwalk, right here. Number 1. 2 is the Alamo. Number 3, you would never guess if I gave you 1,000 chances, but you're riding on it right now. These Go Rio boat cruises, number 3 most visited tourist spot in the whole state. We outsell the Houston Astros in terms of tickets year after year after year. By the way, the number one most visited tourist spot in all of North America is a little place called Central Park, New York. We got New York on the boat right now. This bridge right here that I'm now underneath, this marks the beginning of about a 100-yard stretch that we like to call Restaurant Row. It starts now, it's on both sides of us, and this is the epicenter of all the Tex-Mex cuisine right here in the heart of the city. It's all Tex-Mex, every last one of them on both sides of us. All along here, they got balcony seating, they got seating down here on the water, they got homemade guacamole. You name it, it's right here. Hey, Karen. By the way, by the time I drop you guys off at the end of this tour, we will have passed by so many restaurants, whether you see them all or not. If you were to visit a new one every week, it would take you a year and a half to see them all. That's how many we got in little 2 miles square. On my right-hand side, the final restaurant along the restaurant, this is Casa Rio or River House. They have been open and had since 1946, and they are the very first restaurant to ever open their doors on the San Antonio Riverwalk. We're going to take just a quick pause here, guys. Going to check for some traffic on my left-hand side. Pretty quiet night tonight. Should be clear to go. Now, for the first time on this tour, but not the last time, we're going to exit the natural river in exchange for an artificial extension here on my left-hand side. Now, the water here on the natural stretch, depth reached only about 4 feet deep. And the artificial extension, they go up to about 6 feet. It's got a hard concrete bottom that runs the entire length. Now, that doesn't mean there's no wildlife up in these waters. Got 2 species of fish that live on up through here, a couple species of turtle. And if you have been walking up and down the banks of the river looking at the water, you may have seen it. Yes, we do have water snakes in this river. As you look at the water for long enough, you will certainly see a snake sit across from bank to bank. You're going to come across 2 kinds if you stick around long enough. The first kind is harmless. The brown snake with a white belly, not venomous. They grow big, but not venomous. The other kind is the one you want to stay away from. It's solid in color, sort of dark gray. That is the water moccasin. We call them 2-steppers. They are venomous. Stay out of the way, stay out of the water. We have about 1 person on average that falls into the river every day. Wow. Straight ahead of us, you guys, this is two large hotel buildings. If I can draw your attention to the one on the left, that's the Marriott. That is the largest hotel by volume in San Antonio. That's also the location of a 1985 Guinness Book of World Records accomplishment that happened right there. Here's what happened. What used to stand there was the old Fairmount Hotel. It's been there since 1906. Not nearly as big as the Marriott, but a large hotel for its time, the old Fairmount. The Marriott bought them out, and by 1985, they wanted to demolish the Fairmount to build a Goliath of a hotel you see there today. But the city of San Antonio always wanted to preserve history. They intervened, and they said, no, you may not even put a scratch on the Fairmount due to its historicity. So here's what they did. They had to come to an agreement. They hired a team of engineers. They got up underneath that Fairmount Hotel, they dug it out, and they dragged it in one massive piece onto the street. From there, they put it aboard 18 dollies and rolled it 6 blocks south of here to my right to its final resting place, where it still, to this day, operates as a full-service, fully functioning hotel. You can stay there tonight at the Fairmount. Rooftop oysters and all. Now that old Fairmount, you guys, as it traveled down the streets of San Antonio, it crawled at an average pace of 0.04 miles per hour. It took 5 days to go 6 blocks. And this is 1985. Keep in mind, the whole city of San Antonio was abuzz with this record-breaking event. They come out and drove by the thousands, and they lined the sidewalks with their beach blankets and picnic baskets and lawn chairs. And they come out and watch this old rickety hotel crawl down the street at 4/100ths of a mile per hour for 5 long days. That's the largest scale move of its kind in the world, and that's the story of the Fairmount and the Marriott. We're going to hang it right here, folks. As I do, I'll pause right here. You probably know what I'm going to point out, but if not, it's up and to the right, way in the distance there. If you don't see it, I'll point at it for you. There it is, laced in the orange and purple lights tonight. That is the 1968 Tower of the Americas. We'll crawl along here as I tell you about it. Now, that is a 750-foot tall observation deck. It's a bar restaurant. And yes, it does rotate every 45 minutes. And believe it or not, what you're going to learn right here, right now, is that there are two ways to get to the top. The first way is to take a 4-minute elevator ride for $16.50 per person. Or number two, you can climb by foot all 952 stairs that spiral up the interior of that old structure. And if you ever want to make it interesting, come back to San Antonio in January when we hold our annual Race to the Top. We have a race to see who can climb the Tower of the Americas the fastest, the all-time world record. Set way back in 1981 by a 16-year-old local high school sophomore named Tommy Johnson. He banged that out in 5 minutes and 18 seconds. The record never beaten to this day. Even the elite firefighters of San Antonio with no equipment have never touched that kid's record. Come back and try it out. Good luck. Beat that. What we're doing now, folks, is we're entering our convention center. Believe it or not, this is one of the largest, most state-of-the-art convention centers in all of North America. We call this the Henry B. Gonzalez Convention Center, named after Henry B. Gonzalez, who was the first Mexican-American elected to Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C. He hails from right here in San Antonio. He held that seat for about 50 years, old Henry. By the way, speaking of the Tower of the Americas, anybody by show of hands plan on going there? One, okay. I know more of you are going to go. I live right there. I see how long the lines are. Little tip. Here's the thing. Here's how you don't pay $16.50 for the elevator ride. When you go there, you're going to see a line forming outside of a ticket booth on the exterior of the building. What you do is you bypass that line, just walk right in, find a person with a name badge, ask him or her to kindly take you to the bar restaurant, which is one single floor below the observation deck. Visually, it's the same experience, but that person will then take you to the elevator and give you a ride up to the bar restaurant and back down as many times as you want, free of charge. They just don't advertise it. That's how it works. It has to go to the bar restaurant. If you go back there, you go on either side of the sidewalk, right from those overpasses, you'll end up at Hemisphere Park, the home of the Tower of the Americas itself. You have those all lit up tonight too. At least they should. I'm surprised they're not all lit up already, all those ornaments in that island garden. Okay guys, we're going to exit the convention center. Up at my right-hand side, you will see a feeder emerge into view. That is a Lila Cockrell feeder, named after the first female mayor ever elected to San Antonio. She was elected here back in the 1970s. Now what tops off that theater is that massive mosaic there. It's 122 feet long, about 18 feet high. That is made out of 450,000 colored stones imported from Mexico. That mosaic is called the confluence, or the coming together, of civilizations. Okay, straight ahead of us, the second bridge, that big old bridge right there, that Market Street Bridge. This bridge here, you guys, ties into that story of the Fairmount and the Marriott. That Fairmount, as they moved it 6 blocks, it had to cross one bridge on the way. And this is it right here, the Market Street Bridge. Now, there was a problem. There was some nervousness because they didn't know, the engineers didn't know whether the Market Street Bridge would hold the old Fairmount Hotel. So what they did is they placed a wine bottle, believe it or not. Here on my right is where they put it, between the stone wall and the base of the bridge. They put it up there. They put it there because they had workers underneath with chains and ropes helping to guide the Fairmount Hotel. But not knowing whether the bridge would hold, they figured that if the bridge were to collapse, the first thing that would happen is the wine bottle would shatter and give the workers a few extra critical moments to get on out of the way. Well, it turned out the bridge held the Fairmount Hotel. And that's when they excavated the wine bottle from its little corner up there. They popped it open and had a little celebration, a shot of wine for each. All right, let's make a right-hand turn. See the entire artificial extension tonight. We don't typically go back there to the old convention center. And here we go, guys. One of our boat docks is right here. We have 3 boat docks. This is number 2. Not a real busy night here. This boat dock is right outside of the old the mall here on the river. This boat dock, sort of well known for its margaritas. If you want a margarita that uses top shelf liquor, right here at this boat dock. There's also a souvenir shop here. Go in there, find something to take home and give to San Antonio by. There's Ruby, Jazz. And with that, guys, we are here. We have arrived. We are now entering the second largest shopping mall in San Antonio, Texas. We call this mall the Shops at the River Center. Inside we have 125 places of business spread out over 1 million square feet of commercial real estate. Within these walls we have an aquarium, we have a Build-A-Bear, we have a Legoland, we have 3 movie theaters including an IMAX. In fact, if you check out these exterior walls towering over us, they're made out of 80% glass. 20% credit card. Yeah. We're just going to make a U-turn around the Mall Lagoon. Now, by the way, if anybody ever watches the NCAA basketball tournament, I know I do, once in a while, San Antonio gets to play host to one of the rounds. Maybe the Sweet 16, who knows, maybe the Final 4. When that happens, and the national coverage takes place right here, when you see it on TV, the coverage is taking place from right here ahead of us at the Land Shark. That's where they set up the cameras, the analysts, that's where they talk to players, break down highlights, and they train their cameras right here onto the Mall Lagoon. So for that week of college hoops during the greatest tournament in sports, this Mall Lagoon, tour boats and all, become the national backdrop. Okay, a few things about our boats. I get a lot of questions about our boats these days. And at this point in my career, I kind of have it all condensed down to about a 60-second soundbite, so here we go. We have 43 boats in our fleet driven by about 38 drivers. Every boat you'll notice is whisper quiet. That's because we run 100% clean electricity. Every boat charged up every night at one of 2 marinas right here on the water. Every boat also propelled by one single small propeller situated directly below the boat captain's feet. Now, if you look carefully at our boats, they of course come in different colors, but if you look more closely, what really defines each boat are the designs etched into the side paneling. They all have deep meaning. This boat here, we have the American Eagle with a spangling of stars. We call this our Military City USA boat. Military City is the nickname of San Antonio. That orange boat there is our Peace and Love boat. Those are doves on that boat. We feel that the river sort of lends our city an air of peace and tranquility, so we've got a Peace and Love boat on that. And that teal boat is our missions boat, dedicated to the 5 missions around our city. And the boat that I like to look out for is our Tricentennial boat. That's a boat marked by the number 300 on it. If we spot that boat, we have spotted our Tricentennial boat, and we have it because San Antonio back in 2018 became 300 years old, which makes our city almost unbelievably the second oldest surviving city in America. Which of course begs the question, anybody know what number 1 is? Santa Fe. Yes, St. Augustine, Florida. Well done. St. Augustine, Florida. New Mexico got that one. Behind my left shoulder, guys, I saw a lot of you taking pictures of that on the way in, so let's cover that statue. That's a Stargazer statue right behind me. That's the newest addition to the Riverwalk. That is made out of 100% volcanic stone imported from Mexico. Now I say 100% volcanic stone, but if you look closely, there's a piece of white marble right there in her right hand. If you look really closely, there's a tiny hole drilled into that white star. Now what they say she's doing is she's staring through that device to, well, I believe it's to contemplate when the Dallas Cowboys are going to finally win a Super Bowl. But that's just me.
I think we're gonna be waiting.
Can always tell who the Cowboys fans are. Alright folks, a few things about San Antonio. Not the city, not the river, but the person. We are in fact named after an old Catholic monk from the 1100s named Saint Anthony. If you translate his name into English, it comes out as Saint Anthony. And he's the patron saint of lost objects. They say, the Catholics, if you lose something near and dear to you, you are to pray to Saint Anthony to get it back. Now here's the thing, you guys, about the San Antonio Riverwalk and lost objects. Believe it or not, they drain this river dry every couple years. Not all 200 plus miles of it, but all around downtown, this spot right here, they drain it dry, and the city comes in and they clean out the bed of the river. When they do that, it takes about 3 days, and on day 4, they pump the water back in. But when they come in and clean it out, what do you think, in terms of lost objects, they discovered to the tune of about 1,000 every time? Cell phones, yep, cell phones. 1,000 cell phones every couple of years. Now 3 nights ago, I was asking that question and a lady raised her hand and she guessed 1,000 dead bodies. I said, no ma'am, not that kind of stuff. No. No. On my right hand side, folks, still breaking through the night air and visible, that steeple over the tree line there. That belongs to St. Joseph's Catholic Church. Now that church was built way back in 1868 by a community of none other than Germans here in San Antonio. Now many people associate South Central Texas with much of a German heritage, history, culture, influence. Turns out though, we have a lot of German history here. And if you're skeptical of that, open up a map sometime to San Antonio and I'm going to tell you what you'll find. Our city is surrounded by German towns, places like Selma, Fredericksburg, Burney, New Braunfels, just to name 4. In fact, inside New Braunfels is a massive water park called Schlitterbahn. You don't get any more German than that. Now, I mention this for one reason, which is this. From back there at the mall in the convention center to that little stone bridge. This is all, as you know, an artificial extension. This was put here in the 1960s, but before this river was put in, what used to be here was an old German neighborhood. To build this piece of river in the 1960s, they had to demolish that entire German community, end to end. And by the way, displacing 1,600 residents. The only thing left standing, as one last relic, the only thing they were not allowed to touch, and the only sign that that neighborhood ever even existed to this day, is a little German church called St. Joseph's, where the choir still sings Mass in German to this very day. That's the story of this little stretch back here. Quick stop at the stone bridge. You look directly to my left over that stone wall there. Emerging into view through that tree, that looks like a plain, white, ordinary, rather unremarkable looking hotel, but that, you guys, is the Hilton Palacio del Rio, which is anything but an ordinary hotel. In fact, this hotel here, the Hilton, it found its way into the Guinness Book of World Records in 1968 for being the fastest hotel of its size ever constructed on planet Earth. Here's how it was built. Every room of this upcoming hotel on my left, the Hilton, every room was constructed one at a time like little cookie cutters at an assembly line 8 miles away. Not only that, every room also fully furnished at that location 8 miles away. And when I say fully furnished, I mean the carpets were rolled in, the beds were placed inside, the beds were made, pictures tightly fastened onto the walls, lamps bolted onto desks, Gideon Bibles stashed away in nightstand drawers. Even the little bars of soap, no exaggeration, were delicately placed into every soap business, every bathroom. Only then, when the rooms were finished, from wall to wall, floor to ceiling, they were put aboard flatbed trucks, tipped on up here, dropped off on the side of the river, where awaiting them was a crane operator. And that old crane operator began to hook up to the rooms one by one, 70,000 pounds apiece, lift them up, stacked them on top of each other where they were then snapped into place like Legos. That's how the entire structure from wall to wall was built. In fact, from the day they broke ground to the day the first couple signed their names into the guest book to check in, it was only 202 days. And that is a 500-room hotel. In 1968, that was a world record. That's the story of the Hilton. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are now arriving straight ahead to my favorite corner of the Riverwalk. Situated upon this stone wall here, we're just seeing a fraction of it. There's a lot of buildings up there. That is all called La Villita, or the Little Village. This was constructed way back in 1722, which actually makes it the very first residential district ever built in San Antonio. Now, this was built to house Spanish soldiers way back in the 18th century. These days, if you go up there, it's a collection of about 24 different bars, cafes, restaurants, boutiques. But structurally, it's largely just how it was 3 centuries ago. That's the district we call La Villita. Now, cascading down here on my left-hand side is the 1941 edition called the Arneson Theater. Holds about 800 people. Overlooks that beautiful stage on my right-hand side. People ask me, do we use the Arneson Theater? The answer is a resounding yes. We use it all the time. This theater, fully equipped, lighting, sound, the whole works. In fact, if the Arneson Theater looks a little familiar to anyone, it might be because you watched a 1994 movie called Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock. One of the big scenes shot right there at the Arneson Theater. Yeah, I always get one or two. Also in the Arneson, one of 5 places on the entire North American continent where you come across an outdoor theater divided right in half like that by a naturally flowing river. On my right, this building here is situated behind these 2 large sculptures. That's the Bristol Western Art Museum. Kind of an old Wild West themed museum. All kinds of stage coaches restored from centuries past. Guns and swords, and there's a bunch of saddles. There's a ceremonial sword used by Santa Anna, the Mexican general, during the Battle of the Alamo. In fact, there's a large interactive diorama of the Battle of the Alamo in there. That's the Frisco. Which takes us to this little bridge right here, straight ahead, 12 o'clock, the Presa Street Bridge. Have a good look at it, because you may never see one like it again. We call this an ornamental iron bridge. And I don't know, it seems like a misnomer to me, as it is not ornamental, it is fully functioning. Anyway, we got about 20 of them left in the whole country. 9 of them reside here in San Antonio. On my right-hand side, coming up river level, the only island you're going to come across on this whole tour. The first thing on that island you'll see is an iron structure. That's called Father Massenet's Table. That was installed there way back in 1991, 300 years after the first Catholic Mass was given on the banks of the river. If you look at the island itself, it's made out entirely of the roots of the tree that grows out of it. And that island is shaped like a heart. And that is what we call Marriage Island. Some 200 couples get married on that island every single year. Now, legend has it, if you get married on Marriage Island, your marriage will not only be a happy one, but it will last you for the rest of your life. Take it from me, I was married right there. Yeah, 3 times. Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah.
On my right now, we got Divorce Island. Good luck, I'll be headed back there pretty soon. Anyway, this is where the water kind of widens out. Nice, easy going, tranquil stretch back here. This whole tree line on my right, those are all the same type of tree. They're also the most common type of tree you'll find on the tour, and many of them are imported from the state of Louisiana. So here we go. What kind of trees are we looking at?
Cypress.
Cypress, well done. Where are you from?
Georgia.
Georgia, close enough. Yep, there you go. People from Minnesota don't get that right, for example. On my left-hand side, across the water, there it is, you guys, towering 400 feet into the air, capped off by the American flag. That is what we call the Tower Life Building. Anybody ever see the original Ghostbusters movie? Yeah, that's not it. That's an octagonal building built back in 1929. That was purchased brand new for $3 million by a couple guys called the Smith and Young brothers. They're the ones, by the way, who had the gargoyles installed way up there at the top of the Tower of Life building. Now, if you want to see the Ghostbusters building, you got to go to none other than Philadelphia for that one. Don't worry, I fell for that one too when I first heard it. Anyways, the Smith and Young brothers, they made a large error when purchasing that building. It wasn't the $3 million they spent on it. No, it was the fact they bought it in June of 1929 because what happened a few months later? Yeah, the stock market crashed, ended up in the Great Depression. They had to sell that building off for 10 cents on the dollar, 300 grand. After that deal was made, the Smith and Young left San Antonio with not only flat broke, but owning a whole cast of characters, a whole bunch of money. In fact, we never saw those two again. So much for gargoyles. Straight ahead of us, guys. That large building up there, right ahead of us, sort of offset, set off the river by about a block. That's a red building, and underneath the sun, you would notice this rooftop is green. A lot of people ask if that is a church when they first see it, and I finally worked out why. It's because of that steeple-like looking structure coming out of the right-hand side of the rooftop. Now, I can assure you that it's not a church. I can also assure you, you do not want to confess any sins in there. That's the Bexar County Courthouse. It's been in operation since 1897, the only courthouse in Texas that can lay such a historical claim. I'm going to honk the horn, don't be alarmed. Just letting traffic know we're coming on out. Two things going on right now. Number one, this stone bridge we're passing underneath is a floodgate. Underneath my feet, right about now, is where a massive steel door lies on the bed of the river. They can lift it up, lock it into vertical position, and that protects downtown from floodwater. And number two, we're making a right-hand turn onto an artificial flood prevention system. If you look the other way, you'll see why it didn't make a left-hand turn. That's because 400 yards back there is a 15-foot drop off the top of a dam. The San Antonio River flows over that dam. In fact, this water continues 230 miles all the way to the Gulf of Mexico, where it empties into the Bay of San Antonio. It merges with the Guadalupe River first. But yes, this water does go all the way. It takes a long time, but it gets there. As I mentioned, this is an artificial flood prevention system. We call it our flood channel. And this was put in here because of the great rainstorm of 1921. Happened in September of that year. San Antonio received 17 inches of rain in less than 48 hours. In fact, Houston Street, the one that goes to the Alamo, was underneath 9 feet of rainwater when it happened. 50 people died. That's when they built this, and San Antonio's downtown never again ravaged by floodwater. Quick stop here, guys. I typically don't show this at this time of year because all the leaves are out, but I can't help it. I walk by here all the time. To my left through this gap here, if you look carefully, there's these two twin stone towers. Are they lit up at all tonight, or are they invisible to us tonight? No, I don't think they have them lit up tonight. Let's see. There they are. You can just see them. Two twin stone towers, kind of on the left-hand side. Those belong to the San Fernando Cathedral. Now that cathedral, you guys, is the longest operating Catholic church in Texas. They have been serving Sunday Mass since 1731. Now, if you ever go up there to the old San Fernando Cathedral, I recommend go into the left-hand entrance because right there as you walk in are the remains of none other than David Crockett himself. Now, it's not his body in the showcase or anything. He is cremated. His ashes are entombed. But yeah, there's David Crockett is right there. Straight ahead of us. All right, sir, let's see if you can get this kind of tree. This massive tree right ahead of us. What have we got? What kind of tree? Well, it turns out this is also a cypress tree. The oldest, tallest cypress tree in San Antonio. It's 90 feet tall. Estimates anywhere between 450 and 700 years old, that old tree. And that takes us to the other floodgate. Now, this floodgate drops straight down like a guillotine. It's the other floodgate that protects downtown. And I want to get through here now because, checking my clock, we're going to test it in about 5 or 10 seconds. No, I'm just kidding. That takes us off the flood channel back onto the natural stretch. On my right hand side here, all these pipes, all this scaffolding that lays down the sidewalk. This was all installed here back in the year 1647. At least it feels like it. What I do want to draw your attention to is at the end of the scaffolding here, again on my right hand side, a little two-story building here. Up on floor number 2 with those 3 hanging lights. That's the Esquire Tavern. Now, have a look at it because this is not only the oldest bar anywhere on the San Antonio River, this might be the oldest bar in the state of Texas. No one knows how far back it goes because it predates all of our records. What we know about its more recent history is that it was not only a speakeasy during Prohibition in the 1920s, but nothing inside has really been changed in over a century. Everything's been replaced, redone, repainted, remodeled. It's a perfect time capsule going back to about 1920. In fact, what resides within the walls of the Esquire is none other than the longest wooden bar in Texas at 108 feet. Continuous, unbroken, beer-soaked hardwood. That is the Esquire Tavern. That's our dock manager right there. Used to be the best boat captain in the fleet, as long as the boat was tied down. Alright folks, right here, if it looks a little familiar, that's because I picked you up here 30 minutes ago. And that means we've come to the end of the line. I gotta drop you guys off too. I want to thank you guys all for coming on out with us. Without you guys, none of this is possible down here on the water. Do me a favor, just stay seated until I jump out of the boat and get it safely and securely tied down. Tipping your boat captain is always accepted, greatly appreciated, but only for a job well done. The boat captains do earn a living off of tips out here. Just a buck or two goes a long way to ensuring that this tradition of boat